league sources are telling our Adrian Wojnarowski that the Hornets have agreed to trade Dwight Howard to the Nets for Timofey Mozgov, 2 future second-round picks and cash. The move saves the Nets nearly $17 million and creates 2 max salary slots for next year's free agency. Stephen A., what does this trade tell you about Howard?
It tells me that he's irrelevant. It tells me that Dwight Howard probably made the biggest mistake in his life by leaving the Orlando Magic years ago. That's what it tells me. And I'm sad to say that because I like Dwight Howard. I genuinely like him as a person. I think he's a good player. I think he could still make a contribution for a team or whatever. But the Dwight Howard that I knew was Superman. The Dwight Howard that I knew was one of the prolific big men in the game of basketball, who didn't worry about trying to score. He didn't mind being a defensive player of the year multiple times by dominating on the defensive end of the floor with rebounding and blocking shots and making his name that way. And I think he had the world at his feet when he was with the Orlando Magic, when he got them to the finals against Kobe and the Lakers back in 2009. The world was his. But unfortunately, he got caught up in his brand. It was about making money. I can't knock him for that. But basketball, not saying it wasn't important because it's always been important to him, but also maximizing the potential of it on Madison Avenue, per se, or in Tinseltown or anywhere else. At one point in time, that appeared to be just as important. He ultimately went to Houston instead of staying in L.A. We get all of that, and obviously things didn't work out there, and James Harden wanted him out, and it turned out to be the right decision by them because Clint Capella is better for that system than Dwight Howard ever was. But in the end, what it comes down to, Max, is that every time I see Dwight Howard in a different location, I'm saddened because had he stayed in Orlando, none of this would have been the case. He was the man in that city. He was the man for that organization. And I think that his zest to leave and be in a bigger market, per se, severely has compromised his career.
I understand why you say that, but I disagree. First, let me say I think it says a lot about the Nets. Prokhorov tried to Steinbrenner the Nets. Doesn't work in a cap league. Now they got to dig themselves out. I think they're doing a good job. I think what this says about Dwight Howard, Stephen A., I agree with the sentiment about leaving Orlando, but let's look at what really happened. He hurt his back. He herniated discs in his back. He hasn't been the same since, even after the surgery, because Dwight Howard's game was predicated on his athletic advantages. He was big and strong and athletic. He could jump high, stuff like that. And so his game, he was a truly great player in his prime because, as you mentioned, he took him to the finals with a bunch of guys who just could shoot. Like, he was the original centerpiece of who could find the open man as a center, grab rebounds, and put the ball in the hole on the inside. But he never really had a refined game. He wasn't a skillful player. He was an athletic player. And once the back injury occurred, he was a less athletic player, still without many skills offensively. And so that was one thing. And you know, he was never the same because he hadn't developed skills. He relied on his athletic ability. The other thing is the league changed. They started playing 5 out, and the kind of more classical center, at least in terms of his positioning, became less important. By the way, the league changes hurt Carmelo Anthony, too. Guys who were truly great players once upon a time in this league, even if they were at their very best, would no longer be first-team All-NBA type players. They might still be all-stars, but lower tier. So I think that's with Dwight, what it tells you about Dwight is the injury changed him forever as a player, and the league also changed out from under his feet.
Yeah, but my last point, I just think that he would have been cushioned. I'm not arguing with any of those points, Max, because I think those are valid. I'm just saying he would have been cushioned from the shrapnel of criticism and skepticism that has followed his career since had he stayed in Orlando. They would have covered him better because he was the face of the franchise. But because he wanted more, he compromised all of that. And now he stands alone on an island and completely exposed. That's what I'm saying.